Hello, welcome back to my garden. This is actually the second time I'm recording this because the first time I forgot to turn on the mic. That's kind of important if you guys want to hear what I'm saying. Today I'm taking up this patch of canna right here. Canna is a bit of a bully and a thug for me here in growing zone 8B, Eastern North Carolina. It just grows like a weed, which is awesome if that's the effect you're going for. Definitely a low maintenance plant, and the deer don't eat it, which is great. But because it's bully and a thug, it's pushing out towards the crepe myrtle. It's going to push out this way next year. It's just going to bully everything in this space out in a year or two. So I'm digging it up. I may replant some within a metal ring, not here, but elsewhere within the garden. So this clump is going to go away forever. But what I have right here, this brown ratty stuff right here, this is calla lily. The variety is Valencia calla lily. And yeah, the tops are just coming right off. They're done. But the plan is, or the thinking is I'm going to try to dig these up and spread them throughout the area so that I just don't have one tight little cluster up front. I'll spread them out. I'll have more flowers here next year, theoretically. And over time, it will fill out the space, theoretically, hypothetically. I'm not an expert with callas. I didn't stay at a Holiday Inn Express last night. If you guys have any thoughts or opinions on the matter, please leave those comments below. But in the meantime, this canna's got to come out of the ground. There's no good place to start. I'm just going to start here. The good thing about canna is that the roots generally aren't that deep. Oh wow, this shouldn't want to come out of the ground here. I think I need a bigger shovel. All right, let's see what this does. Oh, I think I cut through some of the rhizomes, which isn't necessarily a good thing. I also may be fighting some of the tree roots. I'm not sure which direction they come out in. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, at least 5 different growing points on this clump. You can just imagine, it just keeps going, 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 going. Now, believe it or not, my wife used to grow these in New York, but every year she'd have to go and dig them up like I'm doing now because they wouldn't survive the ground freeze. So if you're removing cannas, if you've never grown cannas before and you're removing them, whether overwinter them or to get rid of them, just be careful to try to get all the rhizome out of the ground. Otherwise they will pop back up on you. Unless you live in an environment where they freeze over the winter. But here, as I mentioned, they just keep going, going. And there's a couple of small pieces here. This one little piece right here, you guys aren't going to be able to see it, but has a root and has a growth point. This would grow into a whole new plant. If new ones do pop up in the springtime, they'll be easy enough to see in this space because I've cleared it out. So I'll just pull them up at that time. I did the same thing this year with another area where I had wanted to remove them. Brand new growth points. I think you guys can see that. New growth point, new growth point. This last one's really going to put up a fight. We're underneath the crepe myrtle here. And I just got to be careful. I don't want to take the shovel while it's so close to the plant here. These were well rooted in. They really like this spot. And next year, it just would have covered such a much larger area. And I think that's it. I don't think I cut any of the roots of the crepe myrtle, so that's a good thing. What I will do, put down some composted horse manure in the area. But as the crepe myrtle here grows, it's going to create a shady spot in this area, which is good. That's what I want. So I can grow more plants like a stilby, heuchera, plants that the deer won't eat, and I can enjoy here out in the flower garden until the fern garden is done. I keep calling it different names, shade garden, fern garden, but the space next to the rose garden, that's going to be a long-term project. But I can still plant plants here over the next 3 to 5 years that will enjoy shade, partial if not full. I have the pine tree off to one corner. This guy is growing super duper fast. I'm actually amazed at how fast it's growing. And I think next year, now that it won't have the rhizomes of the canna bullying it, it'll grow that much faster. To the best of my knowledge, I don't think I've ever dug up or transplanted calla lily, so I have no idea what to expect. I'm going to use this short shovel here. I'm going to dig a bit away from the spot there and see what we can find. Okay, here we go. It's a bit of a rhizome. It's a funny looking rhizome, and it's got lots of good roots on it. I don't see a growth point, but I'm not that familiar with calla lilies. So we're going to set that aside. There's more down here. If you grow or have grown calla lilies before, please let me know in those comments below your experiences, thoughts, feelings, varieties. Some of these, from what I'm seeing, is the bulbs, the roots grow out of the top, and they go over the sides like that. So I'm guessing the growth points are going to be right up top. I can see the gooey center of where I just pulled out some of the leaves. So that's a whole plant. That's really interesting. It's almost like an upside down mushroom. And again, the roots come out of the top, the leaves come out of the top. And these are definitely ready to be divided. I think these have been in the ground for 2 to 3 years. There's another one. 3 clumps right here. So we just dug up the first area. And I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, let's call it 6 plants. So I can take those tubers and I can spread them out. The ground right here is a little dense, which is a little surprising, but this is a newer section of the rose garden. I'm not going to count all the ones I got, but I did get a bunch. I'll just push that dirt back there. This is the rhizome to the calla lily, and you can see it's mushroom shaped. So that's the bottom. The roots come out of the top. I'm not sure if it's going to show up on camera, but there's a gooey center right there. That's where the leaf stalk was coming out of. So the roots were coming out of the top, which is unusual. And I think the babies were, I don't know, maybe coming off the sides. They were over clumped very tightly together. So what I'm going to do now is get some composted horse manure, and I'm going to try to mix it into the area where I intend on replanting all of these calla lilies. I'll get them planted into the ground. These were planted about 6 inches deep, so that's what I'm going to do when I replant them. I'm going to do about 6 to 8 inches deep, and then once I get them replanted, they should be awesome for the next, I don't know, 3 to 5 years. We'll see. Let me go get some horse manure. Something occurred to me as I was getting the horse manure here is, you might be wondering, is this a necessary step? Should I do this? Why horse manure? Well, the horse manure is because I have it. I have it because I have family that have horses in the area, and they want to get rid of the stuff. The other reason I'm adding this is because of my soil. I don't know if I mentioned it as I was digging up those rhizomes, but the ground, about 6 inches deep or so, is very thick, very dense. It's almost clay-like. It is improving, but it's not where I want it to be. Looser, more free draining. So adding in the horse manure, it's just going to improve the soil over time. It's just going to break down, continue to break down. Much of it is already broken down. As I said, this is already composted. It's not hot. It's done composting. Kind of cover that foxglove up a little bit. It's okay. I'll put some over here by this boxwood. And I'm just putting it on top right now. As I dig into the ground to plant each of the rhizomes, some of it will get incorporated into the ground. I'm not going to turn the whole patch over. It's a lot of work. But over the winter, I'm sure that the worms, the beetles, the ants, the whole ecosystem that resides in our soil will pull a lot of this down, incorporate it into the ground. Plus, if you remember a second ago, when I was pulling out the rhizomes of the canna, they had massive clumps of dirt around them, and I tried to shake some of it off, but I wasn't going to sit there and try to get them perfectly clean. So they took a lot of soil out of this space as well. To add in the composted horse manure into the space, it's just going to replenish some of what was taken out. All right, let's get to planting. And my thinking is, I'm going to kind of do the same as before. Going to have some up front because they're not very tall, the Valencia variety. And then I'm just going to spread them out over here. I'm going to take them, stick it right in the ground there. And I am going to try to leave some space between each one of these, because what I want them to do over the next few years is naturalize, spread themselves out, and hopefully with a looser soil due to the added horse manure, that they'll spread out a little bit more. They'll naturalize more. In probably 5 years, I'm thinking I'm going to have to dig this whole clump up, not just to divide them, but because they might be getting too much shade from the crepe myrtle here. If you think that they would do very well in shade, or if you have different opinions, as always, leave those comments below. There we go. I think I want something back here, something else, something taller maybe for the summertime. Some sort of flower perhaps. So I'm going to leave the space back here, I think, open. I'm going to put the sign back. There we go. Okay. I think that's about it. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 small ones left over. Now I could plant them in this space, but as I was digging and planting in this area, I had the mad thought of perhaps putting them into a pot so I can enjoy them on the back deck. And then what I probably wind up doing at some point is coming through this space and just throwing in some mulch. That'll help the ground retain moisture, because again, we're supposed to have a very dry winter according to the National Weather Service, and I really don't want anything here to dry out. The ground is very moist, which is good, because again, we haven't had rain in a while, so it is retaining some moisture. But now that I've turned it over and introduced all the air into the soil, it'll probably wind up drying out a whole lot sooner. So I'm going to go get a couple of jugs of water, give this area a wet down, and then, as I said, probably the next day or two, come by with a few bags of mulch over the space to help retain that moisture. And this area should be good for the spring. And if we're really lucky, early next summer, I think, is when they start pushing up. We'll start seeing all sorts of stuff push up in this space, come up, and it'll just look awesome. Now, because there's going to be gaps in between, if I remember, maybe you guys can help me remember too, but if I remember, I'll try to grow some maybe low-lying annuals, maybe something that the plants can push up through. Maybe I'll plant that extra bugleweed I have over here, because that will cover the ground. It'll provide some interest, and I'm fairly confident that because bugleweed is very loose, it's not a very dense plant in my experience. I could be wrong about that, but the calla lily should be able to push up through those leaves. The more I think about that, bugleweed and the calla lily, I kind of like that. I kind of like that idea. So the bugleweed will be a nice ground cover. It'll have its own flowers in the springtime. I don't think it'll flower next spring when I plant it out, but it'll flower the following. And then the calla lily come up. So if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe, click that bell icon to be notified when I do post a new video. And this way you can follow along with my antics here in the garden. Epic Gardening Black Friday sale is still ongoing. You can use my link below in the description to save yourself an additional 5% off the sale prices they have on their website. So with all that being said, thank you for watching. I'm going to catch you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.